Welcome to Crosspoint.
Welcome to Crosspoint.
Welcome to Crosspoint.
We are an inclusive faith community
seeking to live out the loving, just, and generous way of Jesus.
We are participants in a long tradition
that's less concerned with doctrines and dogma that demand total agreement,
but a life to be lived, enjoyed, and given away to others.
What unites us is a growing awareness that life is precious.
That we are made by love in order to love.
This community is comprised of and affirms the entire human family.
Regardless of race, age, creed,
physical abilities, marital or economic status,
gender identity, or sexual orientation.
So, if you're curious and have come to see,
if you are tired and have come to rest,
if you are grateful and have come to share,
if you are wounded and have come to heal,
if you're joyful and have come to celebrate,
if you are uprooted and have come to belong,
welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Open up all the windows. Don't be afraid to let the sunlight in. Give it up, don't disobey it. Just let it grow and let it all begin. You'd be a fool to fight it. You belong here. We've been waiting so long, waiting so long. You belong here. We've been waiting so long, waiting so long. You try to run, but it will find you. It's right behind you. We've been chased by love. Lift up your eyes, turn down the noise. Be where you are and let it all begin. You'd be a fool to fight it. You belong here. We've been waiting so long, waiting so long. You belong here. We've been waiting so long. We've been waiting so long. You belong here. We've been waiting so long, waiting so long. You belong here. We've been waiting so long, waiting so long. If you ever wanted to know that you wanted, if you've ever wanted to know that if you've ever want, well, know that you want it. It's something that I need you to know. If you've ever wanted to know that you want it, if you've ever wanted to know that if you ever wanted, well, know that you want it. It's something that I need you to know. You belong here. We've been waiting so long, waiting so long. You belong here. We've been waiting so long, waiting so long. You belong here. We've been waiting so long, been waiting so long. You belong here. We've been waiting so long, waiting so long.
Let me tell you a story of a kid caught up Everyone else was so happy, and who was I to make it stop? Couldn't tell you the moment when I got so lost, playing the part till I wasn't myself. I woke up as someone else. A very wise woman once told me I couldn't keep carrying everyone else, that I need to remember the oxygen for myself. Maybe for the first time I am breathing. Swear that I'm just following a feeling. I lost the script. There isn't one for this, so I'll just make it up. It's you, it's me, it's us. If I'm honest, I'm scared of untying the string. All of this reckless unraveling, all that's left is all of me. A very wise woman once told me I couldn't keep carrying everyone else, that I need to remember the oxygen for myself. Maybe for the first time I am breathing. Swear that I'm just following a feeling. I lost the script. There isn't one for this, so I'll just make it up. It's you, it's me, it's us. Maybe for the first time I am breathing. Swear that I'm just following a feeling. I lost the script. There isn't one for this, so I'll just make it up. It's you, it's me, it's us. It's you, it's me, it's us.
There are many ways we collaborate with each other to be the church we're called to be and to serve how we serve. And our contributing financially is one of the most important of those ways. If you want to help fund and sustain what we get to do together, go to crosspoint.org/contribute to see the many simple ways that you can do so. You can even text crosspointenc to 77977 to receive a link to get started now. Thank you for your partnership in the work we do together.
Happy New Year, everybody. I looked and saw that this year has 53 Sundays. 53. Like, what are the chances of there being 53 Sundays? Well, as it turns out, with a little reflection, I realized it's 1 in 7. Those are the chances. So I was super impressed and then suddenly wasn't. So one way or another, if we're granted life for the entirety of 2023, there will be 53 Sundays this year. And the last Sunday of the year is on the last day of the year. And that felt like a helpful framework to ask some questions here at the beginning of the year. Like, what would you like to be true about yourself? What would you like to look back on and say, hey, earlier version of me, thanks a lot. Thanks for taking those steps. Thanks for being consistent. Thanks for embracing discomfort. Thanks for making some mistakes, but then doing what you could to right those mistakes and learn from them. Thanks for being brave. Thank you for having enough faith to love without guarantees. Thanks for being willing to do things differently. See, one way or another, Sunday, December 31st is coming. What would you like to be true about yourself then? And how do you intend to live in each moment in order that that might have an actual shot at occurring? So I just got to thinking about it, and I thought I would give a really simple, without being simplistic, a simple reminder today. It's going to be an encouragement for some of us, maybe a kick in the pants others of us need, but it's a really simple reminder nonetheless. Because you know what a lot of us do? We speak and think in a sort of a passive voice about things. Like we say, I hope it's going to be a good year. I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder if things will get better. You know, I hope something changes. I hope something good happens. And I do that. It's not bad. But what happens if, like, as a feature of our growing, of our faith, we used more of an active voice, an active attitude? Like, here are the things that I'm going to do. Simple practices that regardless of what else happens, it's more likely to put me on a path I want to be on. Like, I don't know if things are going to get better, but here's how I'm going to continue to grow with or without the consent of things and circumstances. Or I have no idea what's going to happen. Whether or not it's going to be good or bad, it's easy or hard, it's probably going to be all of those things. But here are the kinds of practices I'm going to live out and results I want to be marked by either way. You know, you hear people say things at this point in the year, you know, this is my year, and, you know, we roll our eyes. But that person is sort of declaring, maybe for the first time ever, I'm realizing that at the end of this arbitrary measurement of days called 2023, the fruit that my life produces is up to me. And the fruit that my life does not produce, that's largely up to me as well. Now, there's a little bummer maybe at this point in what I'm doing here, because there's folks that hear this and they go, wait a minute, where's the sermon? This sounds like self-help. This is like a motivational speech. Where's the sermon? And to that, I would just say first, I'm way too cynical and maybe too honest to be on the self-help circuit. So that's not what this is. And also, I don't actually set out to do sermons. I mean, sometimes a sermon happens, but that's a side effect of my just attempting to be honest and helpful and interesting. But mostly to this sentiment, I just want to ask, why would it seem like something contrary to our faith for us to remind ourselves that we're responsible for the kind of fruit that we allow to grow in our lives, the kind of results our intentions bring about in our relationships and in our work and in our living? In order to produce the kind of fruit worth eating, love and joy and peace and justice, kindness, mindfulness, we have to take responsibility for our intentions as a way of saying that we're taking the life that we've been given seriously every day. Because one way or another, we will have produced fruit. We will have produced results this year. Maybe it'll be the fruit of procrastination, or it'll be the fruit of generosity, the fruit of kindness in the face of unkindness. It could be the fruit of cheating and lying, or the fruit of constant self-centering, or the fruit of listening and understanding. It'd be the fruit of working a gazillion hours because we're still trying to believe this idea that getting rich later someday is all that matters. Or the fruit of living in rhythm, unshackled to the machine. The fruit of accepting ourselves, or the fruit of refusing to accept ourselves and therefore pretending to be other people. We can bet we're going to produce the fruit of holding grudges if we hold grudges, or maybe the fruit of letting go of perfectionism, or maybe we'll produce the fruit of choosing to love others. So the question isn't whether or not our lives are going to be fruitful or produce some sort of result, that is. It's what kind of fruit, what kind of results. And we actually get a lot of say in this. But so often we live like there's nothing, or there's very little that we can do. Or we act like it's more spiritual to be passive and just say, well, God's going to do all that. Well, like, God mature us. God awaken us. Dear friends, that is not how it works. And I know firsthand that there are some of us who say, there are some results I just keep getting. Some fruit I just keep growing day after day, year after year. And I am so tired of it. I feel like I make the same mistakes. I run into the same walls. I get hung up on the same personality and relational crap. And I'm so tired. You have no idea how much I get that. My whole thesis is that I believe we can do things a little differently if we'll slow down and learn to observe what's actually happening. Our text today is an all-timer for me. Jesus says this in a couple of different ways in other places, but it's how he's depicted as saying it here that I love the most. Luke chapter 6, he says, "For a good tree does not bear bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. For every tree is known by its own fruit." Like, it doesn't matter what you name the tree or what the little tag in the pot says when you first got it at the garden center or whatever. The fruit that comes out of it, the fruit that it produces it, that tells you what the tree is, what's inside the tree. For people do not gather figs from thorns. They don't gather grapes from bramble bushes. I think Jesus is being funny here. Then he says, "A good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good, and an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth evil. For out of the abundance of the interior of the heart, his mouth speaks, his life is lived." Now, I don't think we necessarily have to see this man Jesus describes at the end as two different people. I think most of the time it's the same person with the same goodness and excessive self-interest within them to choose from. And whatever gets nurtured and cultivated within them, that's what grows. That's what is produced. That's what comes out of their mouth and is performed in their habits, in their life. Whatever fruit they grow, that's the fruit they produce with their life, their habits, their work, their play. And this is super easy to recognize when we think of it in simplistic, maybe even childish terms. Like it's no more nuanced to say, as sort of a warning, that people who have bad intentions, they end up doing bad things. So beware. And there's truth in that, of course. But you'll notice it's often far more subtle and sneaky than that. I spoke to a guy a while back who admitted he had only just let himself realize, that he had a habit of being nicer to men and women, people he knew or strangers that he knew were attractive, while not giving other people who didn't register in his mind as attractive very much attention at all. And he finally recognized that he was doing this because having attractive, good-looking people appreciating how kind he was to them, having them want him around to make them feel good, that was a habit he developed all the way back in school as a technique for elevating himself. And he was realizing, though he didn't word it this way, that he had gotten good at seeming kind, but was actually treating and valuing people differently based on their appearance. And in doing so, reinforcing a few things like his own sense of relative worthlessness. Like he needed them to value him. And so he's producing a result, a fruit that was bad for him and bad for the world, but it looked like kindness. See how sneaky that can be. But slowing down and observing what was actually going on helped him begin to live differently toward himself and others and produce far, far better results. And others of us do this in equally subtle but different ways. Some of us worry constantly. We worry so much we can't even see that we're worrying anymore. We think we're just thinking or anticipating, or this is just how we care. Some of us worry about every category of thing, and we never give ourselves permission to stop. We worry about money when we don't have it. But then when we do have it, we worry about it because, oh gosh, what if it disappears? We worry about our health when we don't have good health. But then even when we're really healthy, we worry about it because, geez, any moment we could get sick and die. We worry about relationships when we're in them. And we worry about relationships when we're not in them and want to be in one. And we worry about relationships when we're in one and don't really want to be, but don't know if we want to be, but we're worried it might, oh gosh, is it going to turn out bad? But what if it turns out good and I won't find out that it's going to turn out good because I'm not in it anymore? It's constant. Then there's the job and the kids, or the, future kids, or the kids' future, and that stain on the rug and your haircut, and what did that look that she gave you last week actually mean? I can't stop thinking about it. And then it's the phone's battery life, and what about that mole and the economy, and am I becoming something my parents would be proud of, and am I getting enough fiber, and oh my gosh, is my pastor a heretic, and on and on and on. See, all of these are probably worthy of a conversation, of consideration. But the fruit of worrying all the time is not only an anxious existence, but a normalized anxious existence. Lots of Jesus followers demand the right to worry about very many important issues. The hundreds of headlines each day inviting us to feel, ever more powerless and anxious. And fine, I don't want to get in between you and a good Christian ulcer, but consider the fruit of habitual worrying about what's going to happen is normalizing a thing Jesus said don't do. Worry about tomorrow. Plan for it, be thoughtful about it, make a need-to-do list, take right action when you can, of course, but be at peace, living and loving here in this moment, and let tomorrow worry about itself. So on December 31st, will you have reinforced your habit of worrying about things as some signal that you're being responsible and realistic and caring? Will you continue to nurture tension as a way of engaging the world? Or will you have begun to live in such a way that reforms that habit to maybe produce the fruit of peace through the ongoing practice of caring about what matters without fearing and dreading and fantasizing about worst-case scenarios? Will you get to December 31st no less in touch with reality, but more at peace and acceptance about how everything is going to go? Or what about becoming considerate? You want to be a little more considerate by December 31st? Well, you're going to have to practice leaning in and validating and accepting and understanding things that right now maybe you're really good at rejecting and correcting and dismissing and taking stances about. You have to practice making people feel heard, when your normal habit is to get them to hear you so that you can, fix how they think and behave, correct them. You have to lean in when your normal posture is pushing against or pulling away. Or how about things like generosity and patience? You want to be a little more generous and patient by the end of the year? Well, both of those are actions. The only way to grow in generosity is to practice the discomfort and non-guarantee of generosity. The only way to grow in patience is to exercise poise, to remain unrigid and open to what actually happening, to embrace your almost complete lack of control and to accept what is, rather than what should be. Many of us have prayed for generosity, but we haven't practiced it. And so the fruit of this prayer without practice is guilt. Many of us have prayed for patience, but haven't willingly practiced it. And so the fruit of this prayer without practice is irritability and frustrated, controlling impulses. In order to bear different fruit, we have to grow intentionally different fruit. Remain aware in each moment that we're intentionally trying to produce different results from the inside out. So you want to be a little more forgiving by the end of the year? Well, you got to learn how to acknowledge your wounds, to think clearly about the people who created those wounds, what happened, and then do whatever you can to excuse every part that's excusable and forgive them the very best you can. And then a little bit more with maybe God's help. And this takes a ton of work. And I'm not one of those church guys that says you have to forgive everyone, you have to do it right now, here's your Bible verses. There are stories among us that they're far too painful and nuanced for that kind of silliness. And I don't want to spiritually abuse anyone. I don't want to wound anyone in the name of healing. However, these grudges, some of us pride ourselves on carrying around year after year. Grudges we hold against other human beings who prove to us really that they're the idiots we're all capable of being. It's just that they did it to you. Those grudges are producing a fruit that's poison. if you habitually wait until those idiots come up and make this perfectly clear apology with perfect clarity about what they did to you, it's likely you're going to die someday at like an unhappy creditor who couldn't get their debtors to ever pay. The fruit of continued unforgiveness, of nurtured bitterness, it's poison, and it poisons you, not them. So if you want to be a little freer on December 31st, I have a strong suspicion it will be tied to you having become a little bit more of a forgiving person by December 31st. And the way to become a more forgiving person of others and self is to begin the daily habit of no longer replaying what went wrong, what is owed, and to begin seeing that we're all doing the best we can down here. You are, I am, but you put you and I in a room for long enough and one of us is going to hurt the other. We're all beautiful image bearers of the divine, doing the best we can with a limited ability to grasp reality, stomping all over each other and getting stomped on in the process. It's always been this way. It's always going to be this way. And again, there are things that have been done to some of us when we were young and vulnerable, when we trusted, when our defenses were down. And those things are so ugly that I would never say, well, just say a prayer and let it go. I really wouldn't do that. I know it's more complicated than that, and you're not a bad person or a lesser spiritual person for finding it impossible to forgive whoever that was. I really do understand that. But most of us hold grudges about stuff that isn't in that category. We're just used to gnashing our teeth about it. We're used to hating the people. We have a habit formed of producing the fruit of resentment because it feels like any other path lets the person win or something. And if we want to produce better fruit, gracious fruit, forgiving, kind fruit, and to find ourselves freer by the end of the year, we're going to have to make new habits of seeing human beings, all of them, as beloved, hurtful idiots, and include ourselves in that blessed number. And I promise you, it will not all be better on December 31st, but it will have improved, and you'll no longer be poisoning yourself. In every way, producing better fruit, good fruit, requires more than you and I believing Jesus said some things in the Bible. It's going to take more than us telling ourselves and others that we believe things. It will be the result of us inhabiting these beliefs in our lives, exhibiting with our observable lives that we think growing in love and kindness and self-mastery is a worthy path to walk. And remember, fruit is something others can see and enjoy. No one benefits or fills their stomachs by eating a strawberry farmer's belief statement. The way of Christ is the way of love, practically, tangibly, because talking about it or knowing how to say it in biblical Greek, it doesn't produce fruit anybody wants or needs. Of the comments I hear on repeat, a top 5 comment is how tired so many of us are of a faith that excels in arguing over ideas, but it fails to create very much healing or beauty or goodness now. So that's why we begin the year with this. Don't forget the fruit of our lives, that our lives produce, it's up to us. So let's continue producing something beautiful together. Just like Epictetus put it, if you want to be beautiful, make beautiful choices. And we can begin and continue to grow better fruit as we begin saying more yeses to opportunities to help those whose needs might inconvenience and disrupt us a little bit. We can begin to grow better fruit as we learn to rest, not as a way of being more productive when we go back to work, but because we want to end each day and each year more full of life, even if work gets shortchanged in the process. We can begin to grow better fruit as we, every day, remind ourselves of our own propensity for being wrong, for misunderstanding, for misremembering, for hurting feelings despite our intent. And therefore, once we remind ourselves of this, we can move through our day humbly and gently among other people we would normally barely consider, like somebody now moving in the midst of valuable collector's items. Because to wake up to ourselves is to wake up to everyone else and their infinite value too. Now, it must be said that bearing fruit by yourself is not really a thing. Your individual life is important and sacred and unique, but trying to get to the end of the year becoming a fuller, deeper version of yourself alone, it might work for your golf game or for knitting. It doesn't work in enriching your humanity. to grow in the way of love and of understanding and of kindness and of knowing your actual motivations, participating in justice and right-making, it's going to require solitude, real time of quiet and simple reflection, but even that as a practice contained in community with others in similar practices who are on the same path with you. And so if you're new here to Crosspoint, or you aren't new, but you find yourself wanting to be about what this amazing group of people is about a little bit more, we're going to show you multiple ways in coming weeks and months, ways to be connected to others, to walk with on this path. But the bottom line is this. Here's what this community offers and promises. We generally don't care what you believe or don't believe in your head when it comes to spirituality or religion or whatever. We don't care about what doctrines you've decided are true or the truest or not true or no longer true or whatever. We're only, or at least chiefly, concerned with what it might look like for us human beings to grow up together. Trusting that the way of Jesus, not Christianity per se, the embodied, lived way of Jesus in our own context, that's going to produce good fruit, good results for each of us and all of us. So then together, we might not look very much like a church people on December 31st, but we may very well look like, more loving, just, generous, aware, deeply connected human beings. Our promise is that we will continue to make a place that's safe enough to heal and challenging enough to grow. A place where we try not to beg too many questions about mystical things or make any wild assertions, even though those wild assertions do give people the sense we have all the answers. What we're going to do is continue to create spaces where what's celebrated is the honest work of the Spirit in our individual and collective lives. And we're going to measure that by the fruit, the results we see together, and how we're learning to love, how we care, how we notice, how we're healing, how we're waking up to ourselves and to each other, how we involve ourselves in the Spirit's movements in justice and inclusion and so much more. And we promise to walk alongside anyone willing to go together, alongside anyone who's willing to believe that on December 31st, we might be able to look back on our lives and say, hey, I think that looked a little more like it was supposed to look. So may we dare to replace some of the habitual with the purposeful. May we be present, fully present in whatever moment we find ourselves, awake to the Spirit who loves and guides us. But may we also recognize that whatever we keep watering and cultivating in this moment and in that moment, one way or another, it produces fruit. And so may we be the kind of people who recognize every opportunity to grow something better, something that has the feel and the impact of the Spirit of Christ, the Spirit of love, the Spirit of peace and honesty and patience and kindness and self-mastery. And may we, this year, form new habits of living that we can, by this time next year, gratefully build on. Amen.
If you would like to know more or get connected to Crosspoint, go to crosspoint.org. If you're in need of care or assistance, go to crosspoint.org/care. And welcome home.